This morning, I watched Andrew Ross Sorkin's interview with Jamie Dimon. I thought it was interesting that Andrew gave Elon Musk an hour and 33 minutes, and he gave Jamie Dimon about 30 minutes. I've cut the video down to the non-political stuff, those things that were important to me in making investment decisions. And as a result of this video, I have made several investment decisions. In the thumbnail, I've highlighted what I thought was important. Jamie's statement that this is the most dangerous time in decades, and he's referring to the world socioeconomic position that we're in right now, and the political elements of it as well. He's saying that right now it is very important to practice risk management. He indicates he's not afraid of China, and that's going to influence me on making some investment decisions. He says that the economy is on a sugar high as a result of all the money that has been pumped into our country, and it creates some headwinds that are going to have some effects on us. And he's indicating that rates will be going up. Rather than ask you to watch the whole video, which I think you should, but I've condensed it down to what I think is important. And then I've left to the end what is most important to me, a statement that he made that I think could affect not only my investment decisions, but could affect the world and could change our world dramatically. Not as much as artificial intelligence and machine learning, don't get me wrong, but I think Jamie proposes a path that maybe could be our nation's salvation. So, this is not financial advice in any means. This is me sharing my belief that there are some people out there that are smarter than you and I, and we need to listen to them.
Best of Us Investors presents Carrie Griegmeier.
Well, you said this may be the most dangerous time the world has seen in decades.
Right.
It doesn't feel that way in some ways when you walk around on the street, but why do you think it's the most dangerous time?
So, first of all, again, welcome everybody. If you look at history and you open a newspaper of any month, of any year, of course, there's always tough stuff going on, wars and depressions and recessions. But if you look at this time and what's happening in Ukraine, a 600-mile front, a free and democratic European nation, 600,000 casualties, huge humanitarian crisis, NATO on the border of NATO, nuclear blackmail, and it's affecting, all oil and gas, migration, food costs, and all international military and economic relationships. That's pretty tough. And that was before the terrorist attack in Israel. And so I look at those things as it's dangerous. And, we need to get through it. Now, hopefully, it'll all go away. But if you look at the history of battles like this, they're unpredictable. You don't know the full effect. And so, and I've spoken to a lot of people. I think you've talked to Condi Rice and Bob Gates and some of the military folks. They would say the same thing. This is really complex, and obviously it's affecting America and China.
As a result of this, though, what do you do about it? Meaning, we can all sit and say that this may be one of the most dangerous times in the world, but how are you changing what you're doing as a function of it?
Well, if you're talking about the company, you're talking about the nation. So I think as a nation...
Let's go both.
But this is my own personal view. We better have the best military in the world, bar none. There's no replacement for that. I think we learned a lesson, got a little complacent, which happens in companies, it happens in countries, but we should not be complacent. The world is always a dangerous place. We just forgot. Number two, I think oil and gas can be explosive, expensive, and it hurts poor nations and poor people. We need to be very thoughtful about it. I think this is about keeping the Western world together. So the Western world, think of military and economic, then, it needs American leadership, not rude, arrogant American leadership, but American leadership to make sure this world stays together. And that affects trade, that affects all economic relations. And, we have to do a good job at that. I don't want the book written in 50 years saying how the West lost. Okay, and so that's what it's going to take, and hopefully we'll have that. Yeah, well, I already mentioned nuclear blackmail, so mankind faces some huge risks. There are three I'm going to mention, okay? One is obviously these wars, which is not one of those three, but nuclear proliferation. That is probably the most dangerous thing facing mankind. Climate change, which we need a lot of work to do, and we kind of don't really have to act together on that, if you think about good policy. And another pandemic. In my view, we were kind of lucky in this pandemic. It wasn't as deadly as a smallpox, and it didn't kill children. And so we need to get our act together to get those things done. Obviously, wars are unpredictable. And, what's going on in the Middle East is unpredictable there. What's going on in, hopefully these wars will end up, in armistice, in peace. That's good for Ukraine and Israel. But you can't count on that happening. And certainly you can't count on it happening before we meet again in a year from now. So every nation has national security interests. Ours is semiconductors and maybe some data. But, for Europe, it's energy. They are completely reliant on outside parties for their energy. Even for China, they import, I think, 9 to 10 million barrels of oil a day. So every country is going to be looking at its own national security interests. And so the complexity of China will work that. We want to be we want to be at the table and help figure out, and I think the government's talking about the right way. Narrow garden, high walls, semiconductors, 100% of our penicillin, 100% of our pharmaceutical parts come from there. Obviously, we should fix that. I'm not afraid of China. Okay, we have all the food, water, and energy. We have the Atlantic and the Pacific. We have not pissed off our neighbors. We've got a great relationship with Mexico and Canada. They have a very complex neighborhood. They've done a pretty good job angering all the people around them. Okay, and who are all remilitarizing: Japan, the Koreas, Philippines, Indonesia, Vietnam, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and India. And whatever you think about Russia, they're not great friends. Like a mere 30 or 40 years ago, there were armies on both sides between Russia and China. And they have to import 10 million barrels of oil a day. They've got terrible demographics. So I'm not afraid of China. I think we should engage exactly the way the administration is doing it today. And I think it's good for an American bank to be there to help multinationals around the world and China with their own development if it makes sense. If for some reason the American government says, nope, can't do that anymore, then so be it. If there's a war in Taiwan, you can take all bets off. That will be a major depression, a major problem. America will be better off than China. And it would be really tough. No one thinks that's going to happen. It may happen. So as a risk manager, JP Morgan can handle that. But that would be really bad for the world and really bad for China, really bad for the people of China. So I don't think it's going to happen, but you can't say it won't. So first of all, the most important thing is the stuff we've already spoken about. I tell my own people at JP Morgan Chase, the economy is the weather. And people are always trying to guess what the weather's going to be. And you know what? You're making a mistake. It might snow, it might rain, it might be icy outside, it goes up, it goes down. As a company, we're prepared for all of that. My job during that kind of thing is to serve my client, which includes countries, cities, states, hospitals, schools, Ukraine, IMF, World Bank. That's my job. And I know that the weather and earnings will go up or down and credit losses and all those kind of things. But if you look at the U.S. economy, yes, almost all-time low unemployment, but inflation is hurting people. But employment is really important. I just mentioned about the bottom third. Okay, and so when you say pause, that bottom third, I kind of think they have a right to be pissed off. I would probably be a little pissed off if I were them. And so we shouldn't just act like it's a binary type of thing. What did we do wrong? We've been talking about trying to help those lower income citizens now since President Johnson. And it's almost still where it was before. And so I just think we've made a lot of mistakes. But let me just caution you in the economy. When people look at the current economy and things are going good, stocks are up, and we've had a little bit of drugs injected directly into our system called fiscal stimulation, the largest we've ever had in peacetime, and QE, the largest monetary stimulation. Two different things. Different effects, but they are drugs running through the system. And they create this kind of sugar high, and we're in a sugar high. I don't know if it's going to end in a soft landing or something like that. But when people say, well, corporate profits are up, this is up. Yeah, corporate profits are up because people are spending a lot of money. Where did they get the money? The government gave it to them. Well, of course profits are up. When they stop spending money, corporate profits will go down. So I'm a little worried that we're in that little bit of a sugar high and we don't understand it. We've never had QT before. I think it may bite more than other people. You're going to see it in volatile markets. You've seen very volatile markets. Now, most of you don't care about volatile markets unless it starts to affect the economy, and which it might. And so I'm quite cautious about the economy, and I think that the QE, QT, and all this geopolitical stuff, they can bite. And I would just be a little careful about that just because it feels pretty good today.
And you think that Jay Powell may still raise rates? You don't think he's finished? The prevailing view is he's done. Yeah, well, and maybe we'll actually go the opposite way.
The prevailing view, take a chart of the prevailing view before every major inflection point, and it's always been wrong. So, I don't look at the prevailing view, and nor am I trying to guess. So my view about the economy is I think there's a higher chance than other people that rates have to go up. Think of short rates and 10-year rates. The Federal Reserve sets short rates. They simply dictate it and can manage it through a bunch of means. They do not set the 10-year rate. That is set by you. Supply, demand, inventory, sentiment, capital requirements around the world. And those capital requirements are huge. Governments have the biggest deficits ever, and they have the biggest debt ever. When we last had inflation at high numbers, the debt to GDP was 35%, and now it's 100%. And you can go around the world and it's roughly, we've been the most profligate, but it's roughly the same. And so when Volcker raised rates, the deficit was small and the debt was small, and now it's far bigger than that. Governments need more money. The green economy is going to need more money. The European energy situation requires money. The restructuring of trade is going to be inflationary. The remilitarization of the world is inflationary. So there are a lot of things out there which are both dangerous and inflationary. So I just say, be prepared. It's rational if you work on a risk me that the rates may go up, both the short rate and the 10-year rate, and be prepared that might lead to a recession. Now, when I worry about JP Morgan, again, that will hurt us a little bit. We'll still be fine, and we'll serve our clients. But I think the odds are higher than other people. I think there's still a chance of a soft landing. I just give it less odds than other people, that's all.
Okay, this is, I think, very profound. And again, I want to emphasize to my tribe members that I think it's important that you take the opportunity to listen to, anytime you have the opportunity to people who are smarter than you, people who are more elevated in the world's economy, who rub shoulders with other people of great stature, and learn from them. It's available. It's free. It's foolish not to. Then, as I said, Jamie made a statement, or Andrew brought up the fact that Jamie has been touted to run for president. And Jamie made some comments, and then there was some follow-up. And I think this just may be the most important element of that whole convention they had for the New York Times, and I hope Jamie gets drafted.
We're going to run out of time, but I did say we were going to go to questions, and I did see Bill Ackman with his hand up earlier. So we're going to go. Bill has been, I should say, advocating for you to run for president of the United States, as you know. Yeah. Bill, I don't know if you want to make that case right now, too, but what's your question?
Good lead-in. Can you hear me? So Jamie said he wouldn't run for president, but if he was anointed president, he'd take the job. So my question for you, Jamie, is, so now the power is vested in me. I'm anointing you president, okay? It's your first 100 days. What are your top 10 things? And what do you do over the first year?
Yeah. So the first thing I do is I probably have a cabinet with really smart, talented, brainy people. You might be Secretary of Treasury. It's possible. I would have I would definitely put Republicans and Democrats on it. Just a sign that I'm not going to be beholden to one side or the other. But the biggest policy issues, the biggest one is this foreign policy stuff. This war, keeping the Western worlds together. I would double down diplomacy, development finance. That is the biggest thing for the free world for the next 100 years. But internally, education, work skills in cities, immigration. You're not going to have this is hurting countries around the world. The uncontrolled immigration. We have to do something about it. Education. I'd grow the economy. I think presidents should have a growth strategy. The growth, the deficits we have today, the only solution is growing the economy. Growing the economy is being conducive to business. When I go to France and the UK now and meet the president and prime minister, it's pro-growth, innovation, proper taxation for the people of the country. I would double the earned income tax credit. I mean, if you just what I said about those lower paid people, that would cost like $60 billion or $100 billion. Doubling that income, and I get rid of the child requirement. So if you're making $14,000, the government would give you $14,000, like a negative tax. That would put more money into those communities, and they would help their kids and stuff like that. I would do that like tomorrow. I'd make people like you pay a little bit more. Like this carried interest stuff would be gone the day I got into office, because it is unfair, and so I would do a bunch of stuff like that. And
we'll talk to Kevin McCarthy about that in just a moment.
It would be fun. Yeah.
Hey, Bill.
But here's an important thing about that. I don't think, even the Democrats I know don't think that sending $1 trillion more to the government is going to help.